Out of all this huge amounts of salt water that the world has, water everywhere, not a drop to drink. China, India, Africa. Now there's a lot of places around the world, there's a shortage of water. Whether you're rich or poor, it doesn't matter. If you don't have water, you have to move or die. This equipment, what it does, it turns seawater or any dirty water into fresh water.
One of the reasons why we got involved in the RAIN project is we saw a lot of lacking technologies in the market to generate what we call high-quality water, which can be used for agriculture, drinking, and industrial applications.
The reason we called it the RAIN project basically mimics nature. It heats water, you have water vapor, and then you take that moisture into a different compartment, and then you distill it. The steam or vapor turns into water. This little bitty machine here can do 1,000 gallons an hour. Some of the great things about it compared to what the technology is today is, one, it has no parts that are consumables. No screens or no membranes that go bad. Billy came out of automotive, so everything is made with that discipline in mind, that you're going to build a plant, and then you're going to pop hundreds of these out every day.
As we call it, we can cookie cutter it. So we can stamp out thousands upon thousands of them.
The world's requirements are staggering. So you need to be able to build thousands of these instead of one plant that takes 15 years to build. We don't have the time for that. Now we're looking at it and saying, instead of one big desalination piece of equipment, you have a farm. You create this barge which has a lot of units on it. Put it a couple miles offshore, pipe the fresh water to land. If you have thousands of barges throughout the world, we can address the needs of, ridiculous amounts of people.
The advantages of using wastewater is the fact that you are using nutrients that are going to be disposed of. In this case, you're having the algae use those nutrients, grow, develop more biomass, and ultimately biofuels. Otherwise, the nutrients are simply put in landfills or end up in the groundwater or in lakes or streams.
There's studies that show with algae grown to replace a large percentage of the animal feed, you could actually solve global warming to a large extent simply by doing that. Second thing is the leading cause of global water impairment is runoff from agriculture. When we grow algae, there's no runoff. All the nutrients are captured in the algae. Environmentally is for deforestation. The leading cause of deforestation is for food production. With algae producing 40 times more per acre, that means if we plant 1,000 acres of algae, that's 40,000 acres of crops that don't need to be planted. So the work here we're doing is extremely important. The world desperately needs algae biofuels and algae protein production. It's going to have a big impact economically. It's going to have a big impact on reducing poverty, improving standards of living, because it'll create jobs and revenue in rural areas. So we're standing right now in one of our larger algae raceways. This is about a 2-acre raceway, but these raceways can be scaled to much larger. We look at making individual raceways up to 200 acres. And this is next to a power plant. It's unique because that allows us to capture carbon dioxide and avoid that discharge and reuse it, and that prevents it from going into the atmosphere and causing global warming. If every power plant had an algae farm next to it, it could potentially solve the global warming issue entirely.
In simple terms, algae is fairly easy to grow, and it's able to flourish just about anywhere, whether it be freshwater, seawater, or brackish water. All it really needs is a good supply of carbon dioxide and plenty of sunshine.
Our approach was different in that we looked at every single step, developed a model to look at the costs, and the other thing is we didn't give up on any critical issue. So a gallon of oil when we started would have been about $30 a gallon. Now, with the innovations we've made over the last few years, we're down in the range of $2 to $3 a gallon. It'll change the geopolitics of the world. A lot of the reasons we have wars are because of fights over resources. And by creating a more equitable distribution, with countries being able to make their own, it should lead to a more stable and peaceful world.
Our goal is to reclaim at least 90% of our waste, and I'm excited to be a part of that. For years, we've been recycling and composting as much as we can, and sending the rest of our waste to landfill. But now, the waste that was going to landfill is waste to biofuels facility. We bring the garbage to the integrated processing and transfer facility. This is where we sort the waste. Through manual and mechanical sorting, we pick out things that don't belong here, like tires or small appliances, which should go to an eco-station. The organic portion of the garbage we collect gets sorted out and transferred to a composting facility. The rest of the waste, carbon-rich materials like plastics, wood, and fabrics, is prepared for the biofuels facility. After removing the metals and inert elements like stones, it gets shredded into pieces about the size of your thumb. The fluff, that shredded waste, is first heated in a low-oxygen atmosphere. Green chemistry process, waste doesn't burn, but the chemical bonds holding the material together break, releasing the carbon and hydrogen in them to create a synthetic gas called syngas. This syngas isn't the final product. It still needs to be cleaned, then converted into chemicals and biofuels like methanol and ethanol. Methanol can be turned into all sorts of things: fuel, plastics, paints, windshield washer fluid, or glue. The facility is going to keep up to 100,000 tons of waste out of our landfills each year. 100,000 tons! That's the weight of more than 10,000 city buses. We're keeping waste out of landfills, reducing the amount of fossil fuels we use, and cutting greenhouse gas emissions. Your garbage goes from your house to the tank of your car, curb to fuel. And that's something we can all be proud of.